Sales outsourcing, strategies for cost savings. Why sales outsourcing is a cost savings lever, not a last resort. Building an in-house SDR function has gotten materially more expensive. Compensation keeps climbing, the outbound tech stack keeps expanding, and ramp time quietly burns budget before you see pipeline. That's why more B2B teams treat sales outsourcing as a core GTM lever instead of a temporary patch. When it's structured well, outsourcing can reduce sales development operating costs by 30 to 60% while accelerating pipeline creation. The key is to outsource the repeatable grind while keeping strategy, messaging control, and late-stage selling close to your revenue leadership. Done right, an outsourced sales team functions like an extension of your org. Same ICP, same qualification rules, and shared visibility into activities and outcomes. Done wrong, it becomes an expensive meeting factory that burns AE time and inflates CAC. In this guide, we'll focus on what actually creates savings, shifting fixed headcount to variable spend, removing overhead, and managing by unit economics rather than opinions. We'll also show how to evaluate an SDR agency, a cold calling agency, or a cold email agency using cost per meeting and cost per opportunity, so you can compare models apples to apples. If you want predictable savings without losing control, the approach is straightforward, but it has to be deliberate. The real cost of in-house SDRs, it's not just salary. Most teams underestimate in-house SDR costs because they focus on base salary and variable comp. The real number is fully loaded: compensation plus benefits, taxes, tools, management time, enablement, and the cost of ramp. Benchmarks put a productive in-house SDR at roughly $9,800 to $14,200 per month when you account for the full system required to keep that seat producing. Even when your team has the right people, SDR economics are volatile because turnover and re-ramping are persistent. Every vacancy creates downtime. Every new hire consumes enablement time, and every learning month consumes data and brand goodwill. That volatility is exactly what finance teams dislike. You're paying fixed costs while output swings. To make the math visible, you need a consistent way to tally costs and attribute them to meetings and pipeline. The fastest way is to itemize what you pay to generate outbound meetings today, then compare it to an outsourcing proposal using the same units. The table below is a practical checklist for building your baseline. Where outsourced sales teams create cost savings. Sales outsourcing doesn't make outreach cheap. It changes the structure of your spend. Companies can save up to 40% by outsourcing sales versus maintaining an in-house team, largely due to lower fully loaded rep costs and reduced overhead. Lead generation-specific benchmarks commonly show 30 to 60% operational savings when top-of-funnel work is moved to a specialized partner. A well-run B2B sales agency also spreads infrastructure costs across many programs, so you're not buying one license at a time or rebuilding deliverability from scratch. That shared engine typically includes dialing infrastructure, sequences, data workflows, and quality control, items most teams forget to budget for until the first quarter is already underway. Some providers report 60 to 70% overhead reduction when companies eliminate recruiting, training, benefits, and related infrastructure. Ramp time is another hidden savings driver. Instead of waiting months for new hires to become productive, mature providers can launch campaigns in weeks, letting you see early cost per meeting and pipeline signals quickly. That faster time to value matters because it reduces dead spend and gives you the option to scale, pivot, or stop without being locked into headcount and sunk onboarding costs. What to outsource first to maximize savings without losing control. The most reliable cost savings pattern is to outsource the top of funnel and keep closing motions internal. In practice, that means letting an SDR agency handle account research, list building, outbound email, and B2B cold calling services, while your internal team owns discovery, demos, proposals, and negotiation. You keep brand control where it matters most, while removing cost and complexity from the highest volume work. To evaluate options, ignore the headline monthly retainer and normalize everything to unit economics. In-house cost per meeting often lands around $821 to $1,150, while outsourced programs can benchmark closer to $357 to $500 at comparable meeting volumes. That gap is where savings becomes real, especially when you connect it downstream to cost per opportunity and CAC. Geo-strategy is the next lever. Pure offshore can be tempting, but hybrid models tend to outperform on quality and speed. A blended approach, onshore strategy and QA with nearshore or offshore execution, can deliver 40 to 60% labor savings, without the coordination friction that breaks complex outbound. If you're comparing cold calling companies, ask how they staff strategy, coaching, and QA, not just where the cold callers sit. If you only evaluate a retainer, you're not managing cost, you're guessing. The clean comparison is cost per qualified meeting and cost per opportunity, measured the same way for every model. How to implement outsourcing without hidden waste. Most outsourcing programs fail for one reason. The buyer skips enablement and expects the partner to figure it out. The first 30 days should be structured around ICP clarity, qualification criteria, messaging, objection handling, and rules of engagement for handoffs. The hours you invest up front prevent months of misaligned outreach and wasted pay-per-meeting lead generation spend. Operationally, transparency is the control mechanism. Require your outsourced sales team to work inside your CRM or sync cleanly, and insist on a shared dashboard that tracks activity, meetings, show rates, SQL conversion, and pipeline sourced. Weekly stand-ups plus a simple QA loop, reviewing a slice of calls, emails, and booked meetings, keeps quality aligned to your brand and prevents random meetings that don't convert. At SalesHive, we've found that multi-channel execution is where teams see the most reliable lift when outsourcing is treated as a real channel, not a vendor experiment. When cold calling services, outbound email, and LinkedIn outreach services share the same targeting and message, you get cleaner attribution and faster learning cycles. The savings become durable when process and reporting are non-negotiable. Partner selection and SLAs, the fastest way to protect ROI. Selecting a provider purely on price is the most common mistake we see. Low-cost providers often cut corners on data, training, and management, which reduces conversion rates and quietly increases your cost per opportunity. A better approach is to interview a shortlist the same way you would hire a sales leader. Process, proof, reporting, and the ability to operate inside your constraints. Your contract is a cost control tool, so treat it that way. Define what a qualified meeting is, set SLAs for data quality and reporting timeliness, and include a short exit clause, often 30 days, so you're never trapped paying for non-performance. If you're testing pay-per-appointment lead generation, meeting definitions matter even more because incentives can drift quickly without tight rules. A structured pilot makes outcomes measurable and politics-free. Run a 60 to 90-day test with a clear ICP, a fixed initial scope, and agreed success metrics tied to unit economics, not vanity activity. If a sales development agency can't show you cost per meeting, show rate, and SQL conversion in a format your RevOps team trusts, it's not ready to scale. Optimization. Manage outsourcing by unit economics, not gut feel. Savings only become real when you actively manage the program. Track cost per meeting, cost per opportunity, and CAC by segment, message, and channel, then prune what underperforms. When teams do this consistently, outsourcing turns into a performance-linked spend model instead of a fixed headcount bet. Channel mix matters because different markets respond differently. For some ICPs, B2B cold calling paired with tight follow-up is the fastest path to meetings. For others, a cold email agency approach wins when personalization and deliverability are dialed in. The best outbound sales agency will show you how they test sequences, manage deliverability, and iterate copy using real reply and conversion data rather than anecdotes. Results should compound over time as your targeting and messaging improve. For example, our SalesHive programs commonly produce 3 to 5 times ROI within 6 months when ICP alignment is tight and internal follow-up is disciplined. That ROI comes from operational leverage, better data hygiene, tighter QA, and faster iteration, not from more activity. Next steps: build a sustainable outsourcing motion. Start by calculating your baseline, fully loaded SDR cost, and the cost per qualified meeting you're paying today. If your in-house team is productive but expensive, outsourcing can still make sense as an extension for new verticals, regions, or experimental campaigns. If your team is underperforming, outsourcing can also buy you time while you fix positioning and enablement. Then decide what you want to keep in-house to protect differentiation. Most teams keep strategic accounts, discovery, and negotiation internal, while outsourcing list-building services, outbound execution, and meeting setting to a specialized SDR agency or cold calling team. That division of labor is what unlocks cost reduction without risking high-value conversations. Finally, reinvest the savings instead of simply cutting spend. Teams that realize 35 to 45% savings in SaaS or 30 to 60% savings in broader lead gen often redeploy budget into stronger AEs, product marketing, or ABM, areas that increase win rates and ACV. With the right structure, sales outsourcing becomes a durable lever for both cost control and growth, not a one-time experiment.